Hello and thanks for joining us on this Thursday. I'm Jurnee Taylor. We are following a developing story this afternoon, excuse me, as thousands of Arkansans deal with outages. Looking at the live outage map, there are more than 70,000 homes without power. Nearly 50,000 of those are Entergy customers. As you can see, this is mostly happening in the southern part of the state in Grant, Dallas, and Cleveland counties. Here's a pic from Rison where Highway 35 North is blocked off with ice on the trees. A branch or the whole tree could go at any time. That is near where we have THV 11's Brooke Buckner. And Brooke, you were just saying right before the show that you saw another tree fall this morning. How are things looking right now?
That's right, Jurnee. So it is obviously cold and wet here. The rain is coming down and lots of trees and tree limbs are falling. I'm going to show you what's going on here behind me. I actually hear some people using chainsaws to try to clear it out of the road. This is Magnolia Street in Rison, and obviously a lot's going on here. You can see a car that looks like it got its windshield crushed in from a tree. Nobody is in it, but we were actually just driving on this road and it was clear. But then right after we drove on it, 5 minutes later, this tree fell down. Earlier, there's another tree stump you can see that people cleared the way here for people to drive through. But just in the past few minutes since I've been on this road, a lot of people keep trying to get through, but they quickly realize they cannot because this tree is obviously blocking the whole road. Right now, I'm actually joined by a nearby neighbor. This is Mary Claire. And tell me what you've experienced and what you've seen and heard. I've heard from neighbors that it's kept them up all night. Can you relate to that?
Yes, actually, this morning early we were awakened by a tree actually falling right beside our house, and that's really what we've been just hearing all day. Limbs and trees falling everywhere, people trying to clear the roads.
And a lot of power outages are going on too. How long have you been without power?
We've been out of power from about 2 or 3 this morning.
Okay, well, I hope you stay warm and just hang in there. I know that it's loud out here. Even if the tree limbs fall from a distance, it's still very loud. For now, reporting in Rison, Brooke Buckner, THV 11 News.
All right, Brooke, thank you so much. We will check back in with you tonight at 5 and 6. But for now, stay safe and warm. And that is something that we continue to see with all this ice weighing down these power lines and trees. I'm assuming that we're going to continue to see these trees kind of just fall whenever they feel like it, I'm assuming.
Jurnee, we did not want freezing rain. We warned about that potential, and it certainly came to fruition. And yeah, tree branches, tree limbs, and trees will still be coming down until that ice melts off the trees because it's so much ice and it just weighs it down. How much ice? Well, take a look at this. This is a photo sent in by Sherry Thompson, southwest of Pine Bluff, and that looks like it's almost a ½ inch of ice accumulation on that branch. And here's the result. Here's a picture from Warren in Bradley County, and those trees brought down power lines. So you do not want to be in any wooded areas, driving through wooded areas, because you don't know if a branch could come down or a tree could come down on your vehicle. Look at this road littered with just branches and trees around Gurdon in Clark County, and one more here for you. There's Rison with a tree blocking the highway. So it's been pretty much south central and southeast Arkansas with the worst amount of freezing rain. We love to get your reports. Make sure it's safe. 501-376-1111. But let's get to the good news because the temperatures are continuing to slowly but surely climb above freezing. We're at 34 in Little Rock, Pine Bluff 32, still 31 in Stuttgart. There's still some freezing rain where you're seeing the pink. So freezing rain continues into Grant County, around Pine Bluff, over towards Arkansas County, probably for the next hour or two, and then it should start to switch over to all rain. So with that said, the ice storm warning remains in effect for a small part of southeast Arkansas until this freezing rain comes to an end. It will, I promise you, and temperatures will climb above freezing out there today. I'll have more on the numbers of who saw what and also talk about some warmer temperatures coming up.
Thank you, Nathan. Now to some other local news we're following this morning. Arkansas Attorney General Tim Griffin is now investigating higher than normal utility bills that many Arkansans are receiving. Summit Utilities tells THV 11 about 167,000 Arkansas and Oklahoma customers were sent estimated bills instead of their regular bills last month. A spokesperson says all customers impacted should be receiving their corrected bill in the next few days, and that's the one they should pay. Griffin says he's working closely with Summit to learn more about the data processing issue and is making sure Arkansans are charged the correct amount.
And I'm going to walk through those bills and with my staff and with Summit Utilities, and we're going to figure out how to explain those. And then on video, on camera, I'm going to explain to Arkansans what we found.
Summit Utilities says the cost of natural gas and other factors has a lot to do with higher bills in general. New at noon, we have just learned in the last hour that Arkansas Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders will be delivering the Republican address to the nation. Speaker of the House Kevin McCarthy and Senate Republican leader Mitch McConnell making the announcement today. The Arkansas governor will make the address to the nation from Little Rock following the State of the Union address next Tuesday, February 7th. Now, staying at the state capitol today, the Senate is out due to the weather, but the House is in session and set to vote on the once called drag queen bill. However, the bill no longer mentions drag performances at all. A House committee gave it the green light yesterday after a total rewrite. State Representative Mary Bentley of Perryville is the co-sponsor of Senate Bill 43, which would classify a drag performance as an adult-oriented business.
So we're just trying to keep minors away from sexually explicit material. We're not trying to be anti-anybody, anti-trans, anti-anything. We've kept kids out of strip clubs. We keep kids out of bars. We keep them from getting tattoos. We're just adding another area that we want to protect our kids from.
But critics still have lots of questions. ACLU Arkansas attorney Brianne Wallace says she feels the bill leaves a lot of up to personal interpretation.
When you don't know what the terms mean, if an average citizen doesn't know what the terms mean, then it's unenforceable.
Now, if the bill passes in the Senate today and Governor Sanders eventually signs it into law, it's expected to face legal challenges. Also happening at the state capitol, Governor Sanders just signed a bill into law. It replaces the term child pornography with child sexual abuse material in the Arkansas Code. Sponsors of the bill said the old term did not adequately describe the severity of the crimes. And an Arkansas House committee just approved a controversial school gender bathroom bill. Transgender students in Arkansas public schools would not be able to use the restrooms matching their gender identity under that bill. The House Education Committee endorsed the legislation. It now goes to the House for a vote. Governor Sanders' office did not specifically say whether she will sign the bathroom bill if it reaches her desk. Yesterday at the Mississippi Boulevard Christian Church in Memphis, mourners celebrated Tyree Nichols' life, one cut tragically short at 29 following a violent encounter with police. Among them was Vice President Kamala Harris.
This is a family that lost their son and their brother through an act of violence at the hands and the feet of people who had been charged with keeping them safe.
Other prominent families of victims of police violence also attended yesterday's funeral, including the mothers of Eric Garner and Breonna Taylor, as well as relatives of George Floyd. Now, the death of Tyree Nichols and the arrest of 5 former Memphis police officers for his murder has put renewed pressure on the Biden administration to pass the stalled George Floyd Justice in Policing Act. The president and vice president are planning to meet later today with members of the Congressional Black Caucus to get the police reform legislation back on track. Nicole D'Antonio reports.
At the National Prayer Breakfast Thursday, President Biden referenced Tyree Nichols and his family.
Justice is long overdue.
Wednesday in Memphis, Vice President Kamala Harris made an impassioned plea at Nichols' funeral for restarting negotiations on federal police reform. Congress started work on a bill after the death of George Floyd in police custody, but it's been stalled for a year and a half.
We demand that Congress pass the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. Joe Biden will sign it.
The legislation aimed to, among other things, limit unnecessary use of force, restrict the use of no-knock warrants and chokeholds, and limit qualified immunity, which shields officers from many potential civil lawsuits. That last measure met resistance from Senate Republicans.
The president and vice president are meeting this afternoon with the Congressional Black Caucus to figure out how to make progress on the bill. But with Republicans now controlling the House, the legislation faces a steep uphill climb.
I don't know that there's any law that can stop that evil that we saw.
With the Floyd bill stuck, President Biden signed an executive order on police reform for federal law enforcement last May, and more executive action may be on the table. But the White House concedes there is no substitute for federal legislation. Nicole D'Antonio, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
The parents of Tyre Nichols will attend President Biden's State of the Union address next week as guests of the Congressional Black Caucus. Will you ever wonder why we listen to weather forecasts from a groundhog? Our Verified team has why, and they also break it all down in just 3 minutes. But listen, I'd rather get my weather forecast from the great Nate.
That rodent doesn't know what it's talking about. Hey, I'm talking about some big changes that you're going to like over the next several days. We can say goodbye to the winter weather, and a taste of spring is in the forecast. I'll let you know when it arrives and how warm it's going to get coming up.